If there ever was a perfect representation of the dark, soulless heart of Starmer's new Labour, then surely it's David Lammy MP. Just looking at him, you can sense the clammy desperation for power, and it's power for power's sake, no matter what the price in terms of principle, decency and integrity. Let's have a look at 4 examples which just illustrates the empty vacuum that is David Lammy. What these 4 examples prove is that David Lammy will say anything if he thinks it's expedient at that point in time, even if it flatly contradicts his previous stated position. Of course, this is something he shares with his boss, Keir Starmer. When Jeremy Corbyn created the largest mass membership party in Europe, David Lammy was desperate to be part of it. David Lammy was desperate for some of that popularity to rub off on him. Yes, back then, David Lammy and Jeremy Corbyn were best pals.
I so wished that Bernie would have been alive to see his great friend Jeremy Corbyn become leader of the Labour Party. Really, there is no one more appropriate than Jeremy Corbyn to deliver this lecture. I said to Jeremy, please will you come up and launch my election campaign in Tottenham? And being Jeremy, up the high road he came with his bicycle and he launched my campaign.
September 2017. This speech is bloody brilliant. Jeremy Corbyn is heading to number 10. Tweets David Lammy. But the political winds changed and David Lammy just couldn't wait to stick the knife into the bag of his former so-called friend, Jeremy Corbyn, and, of course, ingratiate himself with the new leadership. David Lammy apologises for nominating Jeremy Corbyn to be Labour leader. Then we have Lammy's pitiful, endless triangulation and spinning when it comes to the current conflict in Gaza. Like Starmer and Thornbury, Lammy's initial position was that Israel could do no wrong. It soon became clear that this Israel could do no wrong extended to and included war crimes, while Starmer and Thornbury went for Israel has the right to withhold food, water and power from a civilian population. Lammy went for his own unique war crime to endorse. Israeli strike on refugee camp can be legally justified, says British politician. Yes, that British politician was David Lammy, who decided it was absolutely fine to slaughter innocent civilians, women and children cowering in a refugee camp. Yep, no problem with that whatsoever. But as many academics and lawyers rush to point out, David Lammy just claimed it can be legally justified to bomb a refugee camp in Gaza. As a researcher of humanitarianism in the Middle East, can I please note that it is not legally justified to bomb a refugee camp? It is, in fact, wholly illegal. But the winds of change blew again, and all of a sudden Mr. Lammy vaulted from, yeah, it's absolutely fine to bomb women and children in a refugee camp, to Gaza siege conditions unacceptable, says Lammy, as Labour toughens line on Israel. Of course, by this point, there were serious questions being asked about Israel and the possibility of a prosecution for war crimes. But it wouldn't just be Israel that would have to answer questions, it would also be the politicians who had apparently condoned these war crimes. David Lammy, the shadow foreign secretary, visited the region last week, said that the number of dead Palestinian civilians and children is shocking, as he calls on Israel to take further steps to stop a humanitarian catastrophe. He said that Israel must uphold international law and also warned of violence in the West Bank. Of course, his previous position that bombing innocent civilians, women and children in refugee camps was absolutely fine, that was completely forgotten. Then we have his 180-degree reversal when it comes to ceasefire. Initially, like Starmer, His position was a ceasefire was bad. So against the ceasefire was Lammy, that he even suggested that any shadow cabinet member that mentioned a ceasefire should be sacked, should quite simply resign from the shadow cabinet. Let's be clear what Lammy and the Labour Party's position was at this point. The Labour leader, Sir Keir Starmer, has argued that a ceasefire would not be appropriate because it would freeze the conflict and embolden Hamas, BBC News reports. There could be no ceasefire because Israel had made it clear that it would not stop until it had totally defeated Hamas. Now, even presuming that this was theoretically possible, it could only be achieved, quite clearly, it could only be achieved by the genocide and ethnic cleansing of all Palestinians living, to use the phrase, between the river and the sea. So yes, a ceasefire would indeed have frozen the conflict, as Keir Starmer said. It would have frozen it in the sense that the Palestinian civilian deaths might have been frozen at around 11,000, as opposed to the 30 or 40,000 that it is now rapidly reaching. In November 2023, when 11,500 civilians had already been slaughtered, David Lammy, MP for Tottenham, chose not to vote for a ceasefire in Gaza. Let this be always remembered. But protesters kept pouring on to the streets of British cities, demanding a ceasefire. Another change of heart for David Lammy, because suddenly ceasefires went from bad to good. Yes, all fired up from his Road to Damascus conversion on the need for a ceasefire, David Lammy agreed to give a speech to the Fabian Society where he could proclaim the good news to everyone. However, some of the congregation were not prepared to forget what he had previously said and what was clearly his rank hypocrisy on this issue. Here's one admirable lady who did just that.
David Lammy, you should be ashamed. We are 100 days into Israel's indiscriminate bombing campaign against Palestinians. When will you condemn the genocide? How many more children need to die? How many more children need to have their limbs ripped apart? How many people are going to be crawling through rubble trying to find their children? I used to be inspired by you. You used to make me smile. I used to watch your speeches, and now you make me feel sick to my stomach. I used to really believe in you.
And this brings us to the fourth example of David Lammy's ability to shapeshift on any topic, just depending on his agenda at that particular point in time. This was how he responded to those pro-Palestinian protesters. This was his answer. This was the same phrase that was picked up by the Fabians and their social media as well.
I want change through power, not through protest.
Yes, protest is bad because, as well known, people in power always just give stuff away to the powerless. Power, not protest, says David Lammy. Tell that to Rosa Parks, David. Tell that to Dr. King. Tell that to the suffragettes. Tell that to the Torpedo Martyrs. Tell that to Greta Thunberg. Tell that to Marsha P. Thompson. Empty man with empty sound bites. Hashtag never vote Labour again. The thing is, again with David Lammy, not that long ago, he considered protests good. In 2019, David Lammy tweeted, "Civil disobedience has a long, non-violent tradition, e.g. suffragette Emily Pankhurst, leader of India's independence movement Gandhi, and civil rights campaigner Martin Luther King." Yes, he thought protest was good for his doomed People's Vote project. People's Vote rally in Parliament Square. David Lammy MP puts his message to the crowds loud and clear. Protest was good when it came to supporting Ukraine, and he thought protest was good when it came to supporting thinly disguised anti-Corbyn rallies masquerading as anti-Semitism protests. Yes, protest is good unless it's directed against a man who so completely embodies everything that's wrong with politics in general, but in particular, in specific, is wrong with Keir Starmer's Labour Party. So please like the video and subscribe to the channel. We need to support left-wing voices as much as possible on social media, and hope to chat again soon.